So this video is the second part of our two-part basic equation solving set. The first one involved using addition and subtraction, and this one involving using multiplication and division. Now the ideas in this video aren't really any different from the ideas that were in the last video. The same rules apply. We have to do the same thing to one side as we do to the other, and as long as we maintain that balance, what we do is okay. There is one additional rule that we'll talk about in class, but for right now, this is going to be a fairly quick video. We're not going to go through the basics of equation solving like we did before. We're just going to extend the idea from addition and subtraction to the idea that using multiplication and division, you also have to keep the equation in balance, meaning that what you multiply or divide from one side of the equation must also be done to the other side of the equation, and as long as that happens, it will stay in balance. There is one exception. Again, we're going to talk about that in class. If you have any ideas about what that exception might be, that's one of the questions that's on the haiku page for you to look at. But let's jump straight into the equation solving process. Now here we have, instead of 12 plus x, we have 12 times x. Remember that a variable and a number that are right next to each other like that are multiplication. Here, just like using addition and subtraction, we're going to need to use the inverse operation. If we have 12 x's that all come together to make negative 144, dividing that set of 12 by 12, and we're going to use the fraction bar and not the division sign to do this. We're going to divide by 12, and then we end up with 12 divided by 12 is 1, so we have 1x. Negative 144 divided by 12 is negative 12. And so that's the idea when you have multiplication with an equation. You can just use division by whatever's being multiplied by x. That brings it back down to 1x. Remember, one multiple of x is what we want, and negative 144 divided by 12 is negative 12. Now, if we see a fraction bar, which means division, we're going to use a similar type of operation that we did before, except here we see division, so we're going to use multiplication. Now, just like division, where we're not going to use the division sign, we're going to use the fraction bar instead when we're solving an equation with that. Here we have another additional or slightly different way that we're going to use it. We're not going to write times 5 below the equation because that looks like we're doing 5 times 5. We're also not going to use the x like I used there. Instead, we're going to use the dot, and we're going to multiply on the side of the equation. That way it becomes obvious that we're multiplying a 5 against a division by 5, so we end up with x. And 0.75 times 5 is 3.75. So that's the idea behind multiplying and dividing equations. Like I said, it's going to be a short video. We have 4 practice problems for you to work on. So as soon as you're done with them, you can go ahead, pause the video, work on those problems, and come back when you're ready to move on. So here we have a couple of things for you to work on. Notice that there's a division bar in the upper right. There's a division sign in the lower right. There's some negative numbers. There's some decimals. We're just really trying to put all of those pieces together here. So the first thing we have in the upper left-hand corner is to divide by 17, because 17 times x divided by 17 will give us just x. And 323 divided by 17 is, in fact, 19, so x equals 19. Let's move over to the right, x divided by negative 3. I'm going to pull this into the middle of the area there. We're going to multiply both sides by negative 3 because we're going to have to clear the negative as well as the positive. That's x, and 11 times negative 3 is negative 33. Moving down to the bottom left, again, we'll pull this one into the middle, and I'll pull the fourth one there while we're working on it. X is multiplied by negative 0.6. We're going to divide then by negative 0.6. Note we have to multiply and divide by the negative because the negative has to be cleared too. That ends up with an x value of negative 3. And then finally, in the lower right-hand corner, this is a division. So we're going to do a multiplication. Multiply by 4. And we end up with x equals 4 over 16, which we're going to need to simplify down to 1/4. So that's the idea of multiplying and dividing when you're solving an equation. Just like with addition and subtraction, you're going to have to make sure the equation stays in balance by doing the same thing to both sides. There's the one exception that you're going to be asked to brainstorm about what that might be, and that's it.